Scooby-Doo. So yeah. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Emily Moyer. This is Words episode number 61. I am still in Los Angeles, which means things are not in my normal state of like semi-chaos control. It's just total chaos. So we're just going to sort it all out here on the show. This is Words number 61. That's Dani Katz. Good afternoon, Wednesday afternoon.
Good afternoon, Wednesday afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry. What up? I got a big cock. That's going to be my new thing.
Okay. Yeah, you were going to explain that to me before because I didn't like, I thought you were talking to someone else at first. I'm like, what is that? And then you were explaining to me about you and Ross. Go ahead and explain.
Okay, I just jumped on the Zoom with Emily and my opening was, what up, I got a big cock. And she just looked at me like I was crazy. And I was explaining that it's the lyric to a song. I think it's Robin Thicke. Let me look it up now.
Which, I mean, like, if, you know, maybe it's thick. So it definitely, he has a cock and it's thick. So it's a thick cock. So I'm
so wrong. It's Macklemore.
Who's Macklemore?
Apparently someone with a big cock. Okay,
well, the thick thing, like, you know, like Robin Thicke, actually, like you can do a lot of wordplay with the idea of Robin Thicke having a big, right?
But I was totally wrong.
Okay, but I was trying to square that because I have virtually no knowledge or awareness of pop music at all anymore. But I was under the impression that Robin Thicke was Alan Thicke's kid. And for some reason, I thought he made like that kind of like music, like maybe sort of like somewhere between, like if Justin Timberlake and Michael Bublé had a child, it would be Robin Thicke because he would like play piano and sing pop songs at the same time or something.
I think that might be right. I mean, I was totally wrong because it's Macklemore. I can't keep them straight. I don't know. But for some, like that's one of my favorite song lyrics ever.
Okay, but is Macklemore a rapper or is he a piano playing pop star?
I don't know if I've ever even looked at him.
Because Macklemore also, you can do a lot with the idea of having a big, you know what, with the name Macklemore.
Oh, that's true.
Right? But let's just like A, determine what kind of music he makes, and like B, like the other thing that will get us in trouble with like the race monitors if we say it.
Okay, he's a white guy.
Okay.
And he's wearing gold chains.
All right. So, okay. So that's, yeah, that would be about.
I can't speak with any intelligence about his like musical career.
Any intelligence nor any freedom, because if we express either one on present platform, then we may already have like, we should get like a beat to blur out our.
I've done that on our shows before. Where like I think you had the other day. You might have said the lollipop, and I'll just put like a little sound thing over it. Yeah.
We should make some Sadie sound clips or some finger puppet sound clips. Do you have your finger puppets handy?
I only have the horse handy. The others are but I'm amassing such a great collection of reptilians. It's really awesome. I just can't get it together to watch anything mainstream to spot the propaganda now that I have all these tools.
Well, I've been treated to a feast of nonsense, which I'm happy to explain to you here in a minute, since I've been here because my dad watches network television, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would be really cool, it'd be cool if we could do it when we got together sometime, that we could record little like this puppet saying, "Oh no, you didn't," or something like that. "Can't say that," or something. You know what I mean? Like, whoops, like that kind of.
We should sell those to other content creators and make it a whole side hustle.
Right, totally. But then anytime we say that, because then it's like, then not only will we be like, "Oh fuck, I just said it," I'm like, "Yay, we said it. We get to use the finger puppets now," right?
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Just insert that. And it will be like, they'll just jump out into the screen and like cover it.
You're so good at creating more work for us.
Well, I have amazing ideas. But I have to, didn't I tell you about what happened on that one mushroom trip that time?
That one time? I mean, I've heard about a number of your mushroom trips.
Last time I tripped in this house, which was after I had already moved to Austin, but we were back here for a week and we did it. Like right when the trip was starting to get intense, like they showed me, like they lifted the lid off of the way reality works and showed me that every time I open my mouth, the whole team of people goes to work on creating whatever I say.
That actually makes sense. Is that for how it is for everyone or just for you?
It was just showing it to me. Right.
That makes sense. Because sometimes the shit that comes out of your mouth, I mean, do you ever shock yourself where you're like, where am I channeling this from?
No, I know I'm 100% certain I'm only ever channeling it from me, right?
Okay.
There are many, many me's inserted all throughout time and space and the continuum and different layers and dimensions and all of that kind of stuff. And it's like playing like doing a relay race or playing telephone with them or something like that. They're like, yo, hey, you forgot this part. But sometimes it's just, like, it's more that it's not shocking. It's like, I cannot believe I'm actually going to say this because this is the thing that's going to send them with straight jacket, or this is the bat shit, right? Like kind of thing.
Oh,
but
that's interesting. Because when I say out there things, it doesn't occur to me that they're out there. It's only other people's reaction. But I never have that like, oh, I shouldn't say this. This will be the crazy thing.
I shouldn't say it, right? I never think I shouldn't say it. And I guess just expressing my awareness that this is outside of like the general realm of acceptance, even for the kooky lane we ride in, right, is my way of letting people know that like I'm still in touch with what you say reality is, even though I might disagree. But like I have to, like when these thoughts or ideas come, every once in a while, there will be one that is like so out there that I just decide I'm not going to say it right now because I don't fully understand what's being what's being given to me to say. I have to like sit with it for a minute, but if I understand it completely at first sort of thought, then I just say it. Because if not, it would be like having that annoying kid, excuse me, when are you going to say it? When are you going to
bugging you the whole time? It's like the kid in the back of the car. Are we there yet?
100%. It would be that. I was that kid. So it's that. And so I just say it. So it was interesting because it was kind of like, so I do think that I had no idea we were going to go here today. Right. But I think that like when I want to be careful about, because I only caught your clip about your show with Michael yesterday, the clip that you posted, but I agree.
It's a great one. I highly recommend watching.
Right. So I like 100%, I agree about the polarity. And I've talked about this and Jeff has talked about this. Like I know, I mean, like, unless I witness somebody doing an evil fuck thing, right. To a certain extent, like I reserve and when I say, we all know what those things would be, like really actively harming a person in front of, like that we don't actually know who did certain things, why they did it, what they totally did. We're all dealing with like second, third, fourth, fifth hand information, like, and not understanding motivations or what else could have been like everything is like that. Right. So, when I'm saying, I don't know, like people who are good at creating machinations, let's just say that, and not all machinations are bad, right? Like whenever you're working something up, when you're working on your workshop or whatever, that's some way of doing it. But people who are particularly good at designing machinations or systems or experiments, not in secret, but like in an enclosed space, because it's easier to control things happening in an enclosed space than in a wide open space, right? That they have figured out what shape things are easier to create systems underneath. So when
wait, I need you to say that again.
Okay. So they have figured out like which kind of spaces, like the shape of the space. So the thing that covers a space, like a circus tent, is a certain shape, or a dome, like the cap of a mushroom is kind of like a dome type of thing or whatever. So they figured out like what shape spaces you want to create to house your operation, machination, experimentation underneath.
As you said it, and I got the same vision both times you said it, is Austin.
Correct, right? Because this was on my first trip back here after Austin. So yes, but and this goes, but this I can take it down to small scale and then up to really big scales, right? And small scale would be like when you go to Coachella, or when you go to the Indian Wells Tennis Garden, they have certain things under like these tents that are like a certain shape.
Mhm.
Or like when you go to Coachella, the Lucent Dossier thing is like always under like something that looks like the geodesic dome.
Yeah, it's the as above, so below. So what is the above that's going to cohere with the below?
Right, right. And so the way that this trip was sort of introduced to me was like removing the lid. So I could system at play underneath that space. And it literally was like a conveyor belt of ideas, and then people like picking up the ideas like they were tools and starting to put them together to create the reality that I was describing with the ideas. So it's almost like it was a different version of like when Terence McKenna would say, speaking reality into it, like the machine elves were telling me to do it too. And they were saying words and it was creating realities, or it was a different version of that. There was no elves, it was much more like realistic looking as to what our world looks like and things like that. But it was showing me that like my mouth is a reality creating machine that generates ideas that then requires complex systems to go into operation and effect in order to manufacture the reality that I speak of. And it was showing me this is so self-indulgent, but like I just like it was
away.
It was showing me how that was part of how like the current iteration of Austin was built, was that I had my gateway experience, time traveling into the future experiences. And when I've talked about them to people, both in my awareness and in the immediacy of like maybe in debriefing from a project, when I described what I saw, they went to work creating that.
So with that's reminding me of, do you know the Turtons in Tibetan lore?
No.
Okay, so in the Tibetan lineage, termas are they're like gifts that are the shamans would hide in the causal plane for people to find during times of great awakening. And then the Turtons were the ones who unpack it. So like with what's happening with the gene keys now, the gene keys are a terma, and all of us who are geeking out on it are the Turtons. And I feel like that's like, you are a terma, what you're giving is a terma, and then it's up to like everyone who's tuning into you to do the work of unpacking it and seeing how it fits together.
So time doesn't exist, and Austin in its maximum capacity, and I don't mean that in terms of the most people living there, although that could be part of it, but in terms of its like highest achievement, Austin in terms of its highest achievement as like whatever cities actually are. I'm still trying to understand like what the ultimate of what a city, like what's the point, right? Austin at its maximum exists outside of time because time doesn't really exist. Time is a technology that has been deployed to give people the opportunity or the illusion, depending on how you look at it, that they have participated in creating this maximum experience that would be like Austin at its most activated. Okay, so in the project or the program or the hallucination or the psychosis, whichever version of it works better for you when considering me and my role in it.
Not the last one, cancel, clear, delete.
The opportunity to make multiple travels to this place or space that exists outside of time. And then because I'm an observant little fuck, oops, can't say it. Right. I was able to come back and report with enough detail. Right. So if that is here, if we're laying it out and 1999 or 2000 or 2001 was here and maximum Austin is here, right, then I'm here and I come back and I say, this is what I saw, right, kind of thing. And then the things start to activate and they go into starting to create that version.
So it's generative. Your observations are generative.
Generative, and it's like, okay, and so where we are to that point, according to the way time works in this reality that we're sharing, it's been 21 years. I coded that partly of the gateway 21. That's the level where a person is able to step outside of time, travel 21 years into the future, and then sort of return themselves through the process described in the gateway experience documents from the Monroe Institute, right? So it's like, kind of like, I mean, there are so many ways that I envision this, but 21 years has been, it's taken them to get from where Austin was that day to where it is now, which still is not exactly the completion, right? When I look at Austin at night, particularly, like you can do it without anything on board, but for some reason, the mushrooms help you to see the phosphines, the translucent parts that aren't like, so in my head, it's like, all right, the people who were great at creating realities. So in this reality, that seems to be Freemasons and artists, right? They've already sketched out the plans that exist somewhere outside of time. And so because those have been sketched somewhere, right, whether just be on their pad or on whatever their 3D board is, or they've already made like a little mock-up, like a diorama, I can see the outline, and you can see it pretty well when when things are lit up at night and there's some extra ambient, like the pollution, it coalesces around ideas that are already in formation. And if you've got a little something on board, it lights up because your awareness of it is connecting with the person who's also generating an awareness of it, and it's becoming like a consciousness node. And so you see it almost like string of LED lights that, like, there's a pink one, a pink one, a pink one, a pink one, and it looks like a pink line, but when you sort of zero in it, you just see it's made up of dots that are seemingly connected by something, right? So once the idea is being worked on, then it starts to show up in the squinty distant background, and the more it's worked on and the more people become aware of it, and the more people that have been hired onto the job or noticed it being erected, the stronger it begins to show up in life until it's actually a physical thing with lights on it, and everybody, like, you know, even the thickest, most dense Alan or Robin or whatever can also see it, because or whatever it is, right? So for some reason, Austin is particularly, like, I never had the same experience in downtown LA that I had in Austin. Like when I go, and I've been to plenty of parties in downtown LA, just as many or more, way more probably than I've been to in Austin. And it's not that downtown LA doesn't look different when you're like under it or a little outside of time than it does normally. It just has a different set of metaphysics. And I think part of the metaphysics of Austin have a lot to do with gold, and with gold, right, that I think is in the ground, and then a higher degree of BG3. So if we get into like biogeometry and Ibrahim Karim, that would be gold, negative green, and ultraviolet. I think those colors and the substance gold coalesce around Austin that creates, for some reason, this ability to precognate what's going to be there based on the amount of like emotional energy and creativity that's already been poured into it, even though it technically isn't there yet. Does that make any sense, what I just said?
It does make sense. There were certain, I don't know what negative green is, but it does make sense. And this is so synchronistic for two reasons. One, all afternoon, I've been texting with a friend who's like, when are you coming to Austin? When are you moving to Austin? When are you coming to Austin? Number two is, so the show you mentioned that I just posted with Michael Wan was about time. And just before this, I just finished recording another show with Robert Phoenix where we took an unexpected turn and we were talking about time and how the elites and the social engineers must be operating with a completely different understanding of time than the fictional version that we are working with. And because of our misunderstanding of time, it has us in constant reaction. And we're only working from experience, and we're not moving out into imagination, a la William Blake's work. And so what I'm getting from the way you're speaking is like, with this unique skill, talent, gift of yours, is that because as you articulate it and you put it out, the mushrooms are showing you that the other people who are listening are picking up these tools and building from there. So it'd be interesting if instead of seeing their plans, you were able to see a better timeline, like an alternate. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if there was a way to put intention into what you're seeing, and as you're articulating that, then allowing people to pick up those tools and to start building those realities and timelines instead of playing into the ones that are already being presented to us as though we don't have a choice.
Right. So like, I don't know, like, all right, fortunately I have a pencil. So I don't know if this is like, okay, let's pretend that this is maximum Austin in the future.
Put it closer.
It's just a dot. I just made a dot.
Okay.
All right. And that like, so that, okay, let's say that that's there. Let's just pretend these are just two dots on a line. Okay. So let's make that big enough so people can see it. And then let's make this right here. And the only reason I'm making now, which at least in the way it feels, doesn't feel like maximum anything but bullshit and nonsense, right? To a certain, in some ways, I don't think that's the truth, but that's how it feels sometimes, right? But because it's the one that we are aware that we're anchored in, that makes it as big as some dreamy thing in the future in terms like, right? Okay, so we have our two dots, okay?
Very well drawn.
I think that my time travel was like this, right? It was straight. Okay, I took the shortest route, right? Because I did it in a condensed amount of time from there to there. Now,
but can you fold it?
Yes, like that, like all, I think that there's a couple of different ways that this could happen, right? But because I think that it wasn't actually me physically traveling, I think this was more of a remote view type of travel, or like it has to do with leaving your body as opposed to taking your body with you, at least from the way that I'm understanding that iteration. Doesn't mean that there's not different ways, right? Now, so I go here, I go from here to here. I explain to them, to somebody, or I'm just talking about it generally, but I deeply feel that I was under the influence of something, and whether that be some sort of meditation or hypnotic state or a drug. In my particular personal case, I think it was probably some combination of the two. I think that's the way that project works. So like, as I'm either before I come to or as I'm coming to, I'm reporting what I saw, right? And then by the time I'm fully what I identify as myself in this realm, again, I have nothing but like very wispy faded little memories that I'm not sure if they were a dream, an idea, a vision, what a drug hallucination, what they were, that I've been trying to make sense of ever since. I think this was probably one occurrence. Maybe I took several trips, but like, okay, right? So from there, like, okay, this is where we're going, right? And like, I think there's a large group of people who are read in on the information provided.
Yeah.
Some of them have good intentions, some of them have bad intentions, and then there's everything in between, and then things outside of that that you and I don't even understand, because I think there are ideas beyond anything we've ever considered about totally. Like how we should feel about things, or how we could feel about things.
Or how things could, like what the possibilities are.
Correct. So then you have people starting to get to work on the different ways to get there, right? And so just for the ease of this conversation, and I'm making this up as we go, so if there's any unsmooth parts, please forgive me, but we'll just pretend that people that you and I would consider somewhere between benevolent and good, I'm going to do it up here, and between benevolent and bad, I'm going to do it down there. Again, we're trying to not be in polarity, but we have to, we're very, very limited on our language that we've been offered. And so until we become aware of or make up a good new lexicon, I'm just going with what we have. So you have people making different kinds of paths, right? And let's just, you know, go with the symbolism that they give us, which is we have a movie and a song called Over the Rainbow. And then we also have a play and a song and a movie, I think, called Under the Rainbow, if I'm correct. All right. So let's just say We got something like that. Okay, I'm just
We
making
have
it
a
up.
watermelon.
We have a watermelon, but then there's also people who are like more angular in nature. So we might have some of this going on, right? There might be a pyramid or a triangle, but if you look at this, I don't know, this actually looks like some geometry shape that I've driven. I think I could go and
I
find
like that.
some kind of, I think this could be a vector for a certain idea. Okay, so, and then there's all kinds of, there could be shorter pyramids that are the size of the, I'm just giving you a general idea, right? Okay, so these paths now, though they're starting in the same place and going to the same place, they're, because of the way that the route they take, they have different amounts of time that it takes to get there. And different people, it's like freeways or tollways, like different companies control, like the government controls the public ones, like there's private companies that control the tollways that might be faster, but you have to pay,
Yeah.
right? And then there's things that go like seemingly way off grid, but like maybe you avoid some of the hassle of government and corporations if you go the pyramid route or something, I don't know, right? Yeah. Okay, so then you're developing all these different ways to get there. And at a certain point, like some start to look better than others, and some get abandoned in terms of funding, or some go dark, which means only dark money is funding them and less people know about them. And some are abandoned altogether, except for maybe people like you or I who are looking for like off the grid ways or outside the system ways or ancient spiritual ways that have been abandoned because they're not as profitable or whatever, right? So there's a few paths that they've decided, positive or dark or good or bad or up or down or whatever, that are the ways that are going to have the most investment in them. And then they start to look for ways to make money on the path from here to there. Just like on the highway, right? People are trying to go from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and they decide this place are good for hotels, restaurants, gas. How much money can we make on the way from here to there? And is there any place we can get people to stop and invest a lot of time in something that we want them to do?
Right.
Like Disneyland or a shopping mall, or like maybe buy a farm and decide, hey, shit, I'm just going to grow cattle here instead of continuing on to the promised land. Right. So you start to have little things all along the different paths. And at each path, there's somebody who's set up shop. They have commodified their awareness of this portion of the path. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the more money they're able to make, the longer it ultimately ends up taking people to get to the destination point. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that the destination point isn't already there, but because we can't see it, we don't think it is. But on another path that's already advanced more past the space, they can already see it off in the distance, or maybe they've already arrived.
Yeah.
So it exists. I swear to God, I've seen a drawing like this somewhere before, and I had no idea what it means, but now I think I know what it means, right?
So as you're talking, like one, I'm just thinking of Hakeem Bey's temporary autonomous zone. Like I want to go where there aren't carving out the pathways. That's going to be my route there. But I'm curious to know if you've worked with gold. Is your nose ring gold?
No. I stopped wearing gold a long time ago. I decided I didn't like it. And I've been recently starting to incorporate it back in. So like I have this ring, this one is.
I would be really curious to know what it would be like for you to be in these spaces with gold in your visit, with monatomic gold and with regular gold, and to see if that gets you off of their predetermined pathways and visions and endpoints, and see if it puts you in a different sort of alignment with other possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like with all kinds of things we can wear. I was talking when I was on this show called Weaving Spiders Welcome the other night for like 5 hours, and we went everywhere, right? And one of the places we went into were like, when you go to some of these transformational festivals, people who make like some of the really wild wire wrap art that look like ancient future pieces of like arc technology or something like that, right? Okay, so I'm just going to screen share with you for a second. I just went to basic sacred geometry symbols. I was looking for one, like I'm looking to see, there's like one particular place where okay, so like this is part of how I fit. So this is the symbol that I use on my website with the eye put in it, right? It's like, right, this is on my website, and then they made my eye is right there, right? Yep. And this is the vector for equilibrium, right? But like, if you look at some of these shapes, some of the shapes in some of these drawings don't look that different than that which I just drew.
Right.
And so like, I'm wondering if these, like, if you look at one like this, like Metatron's cube, like what if all the dots around the grid here were like those dots that I drew, and these are the different pathways people are working on, different ways to travel between them. And the obvious way is like this, right? Like from here to here or from here down to here. But there have been all of these like different routes created, and each one of them you can get to any of them from, but it's just some paths are more direct than others. And depending on which path you take, you end up confronting certain angles or angels. I was having this conversation with people earlier today, right? And these are the things that provide your meaningful experiences. Also, look at this one here. This kind of, if you made little draw, like circle here or here, that could be kind of like the path I drew, right?
That's like the Vesica Pisces.
Vesica Pisces with the eye in the middle, the all-seeing eye, right?
Okay, so will you pull up the Tree of Life from the Kabbalah?
Yeah, I think it's this. I think we have it on here. I think it's on this one. Is it on this one? There's
the other thing is, let me see if I can find a different one, because there's not supposed to be.
I'll go back.
Okay. The other thing in terms of if you are inspired to work with gold is you could take monatomic gold, you can ingest it, and then you don't have to wear it.
Look at how much more chaotic these ones are. See, I think this is much more what we're dealing with in terms of the number of groups of people who are dealing with these grids and the sort of patterns they're creating on them. I think this is probably something like this, right? Is more, or this is more accurate as to what we.
I think you're right, but look how complicated they are. So just if there's a way you can pull up the Tree of Life and see these, like a legit.
Hold on, let me move this so I can help us better. Let's just go for Tree of Life, and then you tell me which one you like. Come on. Why are we going so slow?
Chop chop, Google.
There we go.
That's what you get for using Google. Okay.
This one?
No, it's so weird that they're doing that, because there's not supposed to be a path between.
That one?
None of these are proving my point. Can you type in Kabbalah next to Tree of Life, and then we'll just get away from the like nature trees?
Yeah.
There's a method to the madness.
Great if I could type. Which one do you like?
That one, the one with the pink and the blue, the third over. Yes. Okay. Do you see there is no line between Keter and Tifereth? That's the point. And that's the last stage in the journey that takes you to your enlightenment. And there's no line and there's no path. And I think all these lines and all these pathways are traps of control.
Okay, and so I see what you're saying. So if you want to get from here to here, you're being forced to go through Bina or Hokmah.
No, you have to go into the void. You have to go into the unknown.
This is what I'm saying, is if you want to stay on a path that is carved out, you have to go through one of these traps of control. But if you want to go from, which one, Tiferet to Keter? Or
Yes. Then there's you're not following anyone else's path.
So you have to take a psychic jump, a psychic leap, which is like Andy Colvin, when I had him on the show, we talked about this, right? And there's barriers. So there is like a wall there, and you either have to jump with such like commitment that you're able to go over, or you have to find a way to sort of move through the void, move through the wall, right? You have to be able to sort of disassemble yourself and put yourself back together on the other side of it, to avoid having to go through one of these way stations where they're going to ask you for your fucking passport.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like Jesus got his ass enlightened, not through Christianity, through his own void. Buddha did not follow Buddhism. He
Correct.
created his own way. Then they create these prefab pathways called Buddhism and Christianity, which are bullshit.
Like this or whatever, right? That has like all these super highways.
Yeah, but again, even in this one, you have the Das to the Ketur. There's still, well, in this one there is. But
look at all this shit you would possibly have to go through, right?
so in like the base Kabbalah that I was taught, and I'm not a master, it's the only one that does not have a predetermined pathway. And that's the one that every human who wants to liberate themselves has to figure out on their own. And that's going to be unique to every person because there's no carved off.
That's a good one. That's a good one right there. But there's no, but you see like they have a false line. I see your point. I think
what I'm saying, because you'll see some like this one where there is not a line between those two spheres.
Yeah.
And I think those lines are traps.
Yeah, and I think I actually really like this grid too, because in my psychedelic space, like these two colors, this like almost indigo ultraviolet color and this magenta color, those are the two most important colors. Right?
Because you're so up here.
So, right. Like it's not that the other colors don't have a purpose and aren't part of it, right? But like these are really the colors I use largely to determine truth, and then it's paradox.
Well, that makes sense because that's 7th, 8th chakra, and you're pulling in such divine wisdom and knowledge. That's all here.
Yeah. So, okay. So, but I'm going to find there's something I have on one of my, some collection of art or something I have somewhere. It's weird that I ended up drawing something that I feel like I own something that has that on it. So I'm going to have to find it when we're not on the air.
Okay.
But the point of this is that there's all this commodification that has happened that is
along each pathway.
Belongs each pathway, right? And it doesn't mean like, but I already know this exists because if I saw it, it exists.
I think it would be interesting. Again, and I'm just going back to the conversation I just had with Robert, which I'm carrying over here in terms of like, we are responding to their blueprints. They have been working on this for however many eons because they have a different understanding of time. And we're still playing within that construct. I think it'd be interesting if next time you were tripping on mushrooms and using gold in the ceremony, if when they showed you this endpoint, you said, what else is possible? Show me what else is possible. I think that would be interesting to get out of their construct and start creating our own.
Well, I will tell you though, that like when I see maximum, it's not something we don't want. The things that we don't want are all the constructs that are created on the way there.
Oh, you're saying it's not the end game. It's like the rest stops they've set up along the way.
Right. So like the evil fucks lead us to believe that the top of the pyramid is the place we're trying to get instead of over here.
Mm-hmm.
So we climb the mountain and then we're up here and it's like, well, the view is nice, but what the fuck is this?
Right.
Right. And nobody thinks, well, I have to go back down the mountain. Right. Like, it's just like, well, I'm on top. So I guess I'll just maintain my hierarchy up here because even though there's nothing much great up here, they told me there would be. And so, or whatever, right. It's like, I have a feeling that a lot of the people that we think of as our evil overlords are sitting around going like, well, I guess I'm the king, or I guess I'm on top of the world, but what the fuck is this? I don't think it's that great. Right.
Totally.
So the maximum point or whatever, this thing that I see in the future, while it looks very futuristic, it does not look dystopic.
Oh,
right?
That's nice.
Not at all. Like when I see that thing, now, once I've seen it, then all sorts of scary things start to show up, but they don't show up there. Like they show up between where I am and where that is. Right? Like, oh, this is reasons why you can't have this, why you can't go there, why you right?
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
It's 100% like the Wizard of Oz, yeah. Right? 100%. And I think that is the, that is, if we allow every point on the journey to ourselves outside of time to be like commodified in this way where it's like in the way that it is being, that's where the tyranny exists. The tyranny does not exist at the end point. The tyranny is a stop on the way to the end point. And it's just like, how long are you going to get stuck there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And then you're stuck. And like when you're trying to get unstuck, and I think this is to a point like, so you and I were talking, I was telling you a little tiny bit about a piece of media I consumed today that is going to be the subject of a first sort of get together or workshop we're going to do for the premium supporters of the podcast, right? That like, this is a lot of times when someone's been stuck in a highly, or like what seems like a tyrannical point, if somebody offers them something that seems just slightly less tyrannical, right? It's still not. So like, let's pretend that up here is maximum tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like we're being told that if you get to the capstone, that's freedom, but let's just say that's maximum tyranny. Cause I think that's what it is, right? And you're like, I would do anything to get out of here. And so somebody offers you something slightly back down the mountain the way you came, or slightly over it right here, but it's yet another stop, right? It's still not that point. And everyone's like, oh, we better slow our roll because we don't we're being like led to believe that when we get to the end point, that's 1984 or that's maximum tyranny and whatever, right? No, the end point is not that. The end point, the thing that I see that is like the shining light off in the distance kind of thing has none of that stuff. It doesn't have that that this is good or this is bad or da, 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 da. There's just this like extreme amount of like energy potential or whatever, right? That's just kind of shimmering there, right? All of the capturing happens on the way there.
I think so. Show me the diagram again. I think every single line you drew is maximum tyranny, and all the spaces in between the lines are freedom. And the gist is like, if they're offering us a pathway that's like, this is going to be better, stop taking any pathway that they're offering. That's the trap.
Correct, right? Like unless they're basically saying like the only way to freedom is for you to like blaze your own trail, right? Blaze your own. And it doesn't mean like that you have to be by yourself there all the time, right? But like you make something up and you tell me about what you made up and you're like, oh, that's cool. I made this other thing up. And then you and I can have a little, some movement between our little paths that we made up or da-da-da-da-da. It doesn't mean you have to do it alone. But if something like, you know, like this is okay. So our friend that sends Michael and I gifts, have you received a gift yet? If not, I'm assuming one will come, right? But he pointed my attention to Edward Murray Bassett, who was the father of zoning and coined the term freeway. It's a Masonic term, right? So if they're showing you like this is the direct path from here to there, I guarantee you that's not the path there. The only time they took it was the first time they walked it. Right.
Well, and that's the thing. That's exactly what goes back to what I was saying about Jesus and Muhammad. And you're right. The path doesn't mean alone. It just means authentic. It means we're deciding my foot wants to go this way. Now my foot wants to go this way. And then we're honoring our own sovereign, empowered, intuitive knowingness instead of giving it all away to be told what to do and just only walk on sidewalks and only drive on paved roads.
Okay, so do you know what one of the things that I have been most attracted to, but like have never done, because by the time my awareness came to that this activity existed, like my body couldn't do it the way I would have wanted to do it, or at least I believed that at the time, and maybe that's something to work on. Do you know what free running is? They also call it parkour, but I think that they started calling it parkour to trap people in a park.
Parkour looks super fun. Okay,
but the original name was free running.
Okay.
And the idea with free running is you draw the line, the fastest line between one place and the other, and then you do whatever you need to do to not have to break from that path. So you don't want to have to go around based on the fact that there might be a tall building here, you're going to scale the building.
Right.
Right. And so you see people doing all of this, like jumping over walls, launching themselves off of something, but it's basically training yourself to do whatever you have to do in order to do the shortest path.
Right.
Not go on any, not the sidewalk, not the paved road,
Right.
not the elevator or whatever. You have to do it with your own body, and you can use the creativity of your own mind to create ways of making it happen.
Yeah.
Free running.
Yeah. That.
Right. So that I think is, and I think that's part of also where like why the focus on making people unhealthy and unfit, because you are not, so you cannot blaze your own pathway as efficiently, right? Like if everyone's healthy, everyone's healthy and able to manipulate their body in whatever way their mind can dream up. It's not going to be very long before people get from A to B.
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
Right. So this is, you know, which should tell us if it's at like, we have to put microplastics in everything people consume. If it's at that point, then the actual distance, whether it be spatial or temporal, can't really be that far if they have to deploy this many things to stop us.
Well, that's my thing. It's like, if they're turning up the volume on all their fuckery, like we must be doing great. Like, we're clearly winning.
Yeah. So, okay. So I can't remember how we even got into this. Oh, the mushroom trips, right? So like when I see the place in the future, like there's not like police and guards and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right. When I try to go now to the places that I saw there would be something interesting in the future, there's police and guards there. But in my vision, there was not police and guards.
Right.
When it's all done, there's not police and guards.
Right.
Right. And there's not stoplights and dumb shit like that. Right. You know,
I like your future.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to, I was just laying in the bed and like I had this vision, and everything I just described to you happened in just like a minute or two in the trip, that I like rocked all that I just told you there. Yeah. Right. But that is like when I would, whatever this was, like, so I take it as on some layer and in some dimension or some version of reality or in some office somewhere in 78704 or something. The moment I said the things I said, an entire team launched into action, right? Trying to both, I don't know if it was erect that reality or erect the path that they were going to try and create to that reality, right? That, you know, that sort of passed through. And then every time I talk, a little team of like worker bees or whatever starts doing this stuff, right? Like it was like, I imagined like whistle while you work, you know, like that kind of thing.
That's so cool. I'm so curious to know if this is specific to you, where they're from, you know, like what's the soul agreement between you and this team? You know, are you their like overlordress, priestess, you know, something that's worshipped in their dimension? Are they all wearing you around their neck on pendants? Do they say like, thank you, Emily, before every meal?
Like this is the interesting, this is so self-indulgent. I'm probably gonna like face so much shit for this, but whatever, right? So the question is, did I see some place that already existed, or is it something that my mind created, right? That my mind created, and like as soon as you're able to describe something well enough, something renders it into reality.
Right. Are you just seeing like the mechanisms of creation that are operating at all times for everyone, but you're just getting a glimpse?
I think this is the part, and I think this is why, all right, I think in order to be able to understand it, at least as well as I just described it, and for some people, obviously, they've mastered a level even beyond what I just described. Like the only way is to imagine that you're doing it, that it's all about you, like to engage in that level of self-indulgence, not for arrogance per se, but like, I don't think we can ever fully understand something unless it's about us or it's happening to us or we're doing it. So the only way that it can be sort of shown to you is in this more like personal realm, like everything I say erects a reality of right? Like you have to sort of own it from that level. And then when you engage in the act of like moving towards or creating or build, however you like, we all have different ways that we're creative, right? Some people literally are builders, others are storytellers. So they're not actually making it with their hands, they're making it with their words. And then maybe somebody else makes it with their hands, right? But like you have to own it, like it's something you are creating in order to ever get there. And if you just are thinking, oh, it's just all my imagination and it's not real and I didn't do it and whatever, then like it's actually like a cop out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fine line because we're you know, it's a multi-dimensional exploration that we're tracking with 3D minds, but I think it's more intellectually honest that you're owning it as your experience. I interviewed Antaro Ali this week, who's my new buddy.
Okay.
And he was like, he won't jump on board with like the collective or like, here's what's happening with the collective. He's like, I only know my own experience. That's the only thing that I can ever speak to. And he had this really hard line of like, I can't know for the collective. I can't know for anyone else beyond my own experience.
Okay, so he's part of the whole 8 circuit model of consciousness and stuff like that. I see. Okay, I've heard his name before. I think maybe we've talked about him.
You love how his mind works. It's so beautiful.
Yep, right here. This goes perfectly to that which I just explained. And I think like if I were to sum up everything that like, you know, Michael and I have been working towards and what we have to do next. Yesterday, they called it coincidence. Today, it's synchronicity. Tomorrow, they'll call it skill. Yeah. And that goes to what we were just talking about when we pre-showed about what we're going to do with our get-togethers.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Have you brought him up to me before?
He came up, I think Michael brought him up on a show that the 3 of us did together.
Okay. Oh, and look what we have here. It's like, yeah. Okay. Very interesting. I'll have to look a little further into him. His eyes are interesting.
Yeah, he's in the Robert Anton Wilson, Timothy Leary crew conversation.
Oh, that's a really interesting picture. Look at that. Wow. All right. Look at that. The invisible forest. This goes to like what Michael and I were just talking about in a show a couple of weeks ago about like a forest as like a green screen, like, right? Like the, wow. Okay. Oh, look at this. All rights reversed.
He's super prolific. I recommend checking out his work. All his movies are available for free on YouTube, and he has a ton of writings. Really, really interesting perspective.
Okay. All right. So I think let's wrap up the public hour and move into Afterwords. I have no idea what that was, but I hope people found it at least entertaining, if not interesting. So Dani and I are working on creating an experience for like, we're going to have a premium supporter level on locals that will involve like an informative get together. And we're like, really we're marking that up right now, right? And we are creating the most direct path between A and B. But I'd lie and say if there, I would lie. It would be a lie if I said there was no commodification sort of between it, right?
We give a lot.
So keep like that's going to be coming shortly. We're going to have the details on what that's going to be, but we just had like a great idea about it, and I think we're going to
Emily had a great idea about it.
Well, I don't like the coalescing idea might be mine, but like I look at your skill set and I look at my skill set, and then I look at like what's actually happening and how can those things come together in a way to create something meaningful for this time, which may be something different than what we needed last year or next year, but could be useful now. So, all right, if you want to join us for Afterwords, then you can go to wordspodcast.locals.com. I have so many of those little things, right? And Afterwords is available in video format only there. There'll be a promo code down below for people who haven't joined us yet and want to try that out for a free month. We do 2 shows a month, and there's going to be And it's a $6 price tag, but there's a free month for you guys with the code. And we're working on a premium experience for people who would like to support us beyond that and would like to get to hang out and experience this nuttiness for yourself. Any offerings you want to tell the people about?
Yes, I think that this is probably going to come out after my Language of Healing webinar, which will have been amazing and also recorded. So available for lifetime download as well. I'm taking on one-on-one transformational coaching clients. So as you're inspired to face your bullshit, transmute it, and step into your biggest, most expansive self, hit me up.
Cool. I'll let her take care of that part. And I'm going to help you take care of the nutrition and the physique so that when the free running opportunity comes up, you'll be able to go for it. So if you would like to get your diet and your movement and all of that jazz in order, you can hit me up. Everything is down below. We'll see you on the other side.
Bye.
It's a cool Scooby-Doo. So yeah,